Welcome to the 2022 demo day for the InsurTech NY Accelerator and MGA Lab. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you today because this is really a culmination of two big projects. One is our demo day for the accelerator. So the accelerator, this is the third cohort that's going through the program. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. And the second is our experiment, the MGA Lab. So the MGA Lab is the first year that we're running it. And really the idea was to get together a group of startups that had a vision to become an MGA and walk them through all of the steps from building their model, establishing capacity relationships and distribution, which they had their distribution day yesterday, to ultimately get to the point where now they're ready to share what they did with investors. So today, you're probably wondering who's here, who's presenting. So there's 38 companies that will be presenting, representing ultimately a couple different buckets. So one is our accelerator cohort. This is kind of the core group, the majority of the people here. The second is our MGA Lab startups. And then the others is we've invited back a number of our previous cohorts that are alumni companies to present. And we have a couple of the portfolio companies in our fund. And I just want to say, like, our alumni companies have been doing extremely stellar post the first two cohorts of the accelerator. So some quick stats that you might be interested in. So we did our first accelerator in 2020, so a little bit over 2 years ago. And since then, the founders have gone on to raise $373 million in follow-on funding. And beyond that, none of the companies have failed. So no pressure on you guys in the current cohort. Please continue operating forever. And more importantly, they've gotten to exit. So 5 of the companies have actually gotten to exit. So some of you might be familiar with some of them: Relay Platform, IXN, Breathe Life, Verikai. Those are some of the companies that got to exit. So all of you here are in a very good company. And for the alumni coming back, kind of think of it as an opportunity to kind of mentor the next generation. For those of you here, you know, the investors in the room can feel really confident that the picking choice went really well. And you're probably wondering, well, how did that picking process go? So for the accelerator, we had 151 companies apply to get in. And keep in mind that our accelerator is focused on growth stage companies. So the companies have to have revenue, they have to have traction, they have to have customers and be in the market for a little bit of time. And what we do is we invite our 11 insurance carrier members, some of which are here, and they review all of the companies that had applied, and they look at them for, are we interested in investing in them? Are we interested in doing a pilot with them? Are we interested in partnering with them for some type of distribution relationship? And based off of that, they pick the companies that they feel are worth spending time with and working with. And then the startups work with them through the accelerator program. So ultimately, everyone that's here has had some additional level of validation from the carriers in our program. The MGA Lab is somewhat similar. We go out to capacity providers and kind of validate that they're interested in working with them. And some of that is kind of our thinking. Do we feel that there's something unique and special about them? And for the MGA Lab, there were 64 MGAs that applied, and we selected 9 to be in the program. So that's more or less what you're going to be seeing today, is 38 of those companies presenting. So I want to get to this in a moment, which is our big conference, but some special announcements of events coming up. So first is, for those of you that just can't get enough of InsurTech, you're welcome to stay tonight. So starting at 4:30 after the pitches wrap up, we have our underwriting data event. So we're going to have 2 panels and really dig into all these new data sources that are available to carriers and where is actually the signal in all of the noise. So stick around if you want. No extra things that you have to do. Most of you are already registered, but if you're here, you're welcome to stay. The second event coming up is for those of you that have come over from the left coast of the country. We're doing an event in Palo Alto on December 8th, and that's going to be focused on claims and resilience. The reason why we decided to do that event is some of you might be familiar with what happened in Florida with Hurricane Ian. And, you know, ultimately there were some communities that were prepared and they had solar panels and they were reinforced and they did really well. There were other communities that were not, and we're forecasting right now that this will be the third biggest storm in terms of claims volume in the United States. So we wanted to talk about that and some of the other things that are affecting, you know, property and also life and health perspective that we can build resilience as a society for. Then the event after that in January is January 31st and February 1st. It's actually the one that I'm personally looking most forward to, which is called InsurTech Slopes. So InsurTech Slopes is a gathering just for founders and investors, and we get together, we have a half day of educational content, and then we hit the slopes together. So no better way to get to know your portfolio companies, companies you're thinking of investing in, or other founders than to spend time with them on the chairlift. And we accept people that are non-skiers as well. So if you're not, there's opportunities to take lessons or to just hang out with us as well in the snow. And then the biggest event of the year for us is our spring conference. So we're expecting this year coming up to have more than 700 people attend. We're holding it in the Chelsea Piers. So it's really awesome venue, was recently renovated, great views right on the river. So I highly encourage all of you, if you haven't already gotten the business cards with more information on it, save those in your wallet, save the date in your phone, and register when you can. The cards that were given out in the front give you a 20% off as kind of special guests at the demo day. So that's all the announcements for me. So I'm going to go and share our agenda for today, and then we'll go into our panel after that. So basically how the day is set up is you have kind of two pieces of content. So there's a panel this morning, and what we're going to be really talking about is, you know, a lot of you are pitching and the investors are listening, but what happens behind the scenes? What happens in that black box when investors don't get back to you for months and then they're like, actually, we're really interested and I think we want to invest. So we wanted to give you an opportunity to see what happens behind the scenes. And then we have 4 segments of presentations. So part 1 and part 2 are property and casualty. Part 3 and part 4 are life and health and those companies that kind of fit into both categories. So there's 38 companies that are kind of split up into each of the parts. Every company will have 5 minutes to present, but Aaron's going to share a little bit more details on that before the pitches immediately start. And also, we have a special guest coming in from one of the least liked agencies in the country, New York DFS, but don't be too unkind to them because they've volunteered their time to come in and listen to you and hear your opinion. But they're going to be talking about their Fast Forward program, which is a very helpful program for those of you that want to do business in New York. And it's really an opportunity to be able to work with them so they don't have to be your enemy, they can be your friend. They're going to take time set aside, find the right people in the department to answer questions from you. So we're doing our best to kind of change the perception of DFS and try and make that more friendly to founders. And this is one program that they've created and volunteered as an opportunity to really reach out and collaborate with you on. So that's pretty much the day ahead of us. So I want to invite up our first fireside chat, who's Brandon Barron from Hudson Structured Capital Management. They're a venture capital fund in the city that's backed by a lot of great institutional LPs in the insurance area. So Brandon and I are going to talk about that key issue of what happens behind the scenes at a VC. All right, Brandon. Well, no pressure here. You just have a room full of founders that want to know everything that happens behind the scenes. So, You know, one of the things I think it would be appropriate to start with is we're about to hear 38 presentations, right? And a lot of the founders, they probably already sent us their decks and already memorized everything, so they can't change anything. But if they had a couple things to change, be good to hear your perspective. What makes a pitch exceptional? What things stand out based off of the pitches that you've seen this year?
So I think the most important thing to me is actually that the pitch is a single data point in our investment journey. So I'm not expecting to understand and walk away from the pitch making an investment decision on the spot. So really the most important thing is coming away with a clear understanding of the business, because I'm going to go back to my team and relay the message. And so if it wasn't clear to me from the founder what you guys are doing, you run the risk of me actually explaining it back to my team incorrectly. And then, so that what that really requires from the founder is you guys are spending all day, all night thinking about your businesses, and I'm spending all day, all night thinking about a bunch of other businesses. And so bringing it up to that 10,000-foot view, being able to tell a clear story with what you're trying to do, how you're doing it, what makes your business special, and also like where you guys are currently at in your business journey is super important in distinguishing a good pitch.
So having a clear and concise pitch is really important, but a lot of the InsurTechs here will say, you know, well, I have a really complicated business model, or insurance is complicated. So for you, being an InsurTech investor, how important is it to them to spend time and give you details on insurance versus like their specific business model? What are things that help make a presentation clear and concise?
So I think I'll just frame that through our own investment context. Like when we're looking at what makes a good opportunity, we're trying to solve a couple different things, which is but broadly making the world a better place. But how do you really do that in the context of insurance or InsurTech? And there's a few different ways, which is like creating new products or expanding access to products for people that are currently underinsured or not insured. Improving pricing, so being able to better segment customers which is in some ways a form of expanding coverage itself, or really improving the efficiency or the customer service anywhere throughout the value chain of insurance. And so, like the business being clear and concise also means like actually being able to answer one of those questions, and talking through a really complex business model doesn't necessarily help me answer that question.
So digesting that a little bit, if they can relate what they're doing to your investment thesis, it's going to make it much more of a match for you to be able to explain back to your team.
Yeah, and going back to sort of like the pitch being a single data point in the investment process is like we will get to that, but at least, and maybe it's worth saying that like different folks have different processes. But from my perspective is like I want to start from the top and then peel the proverbial onion back.
Sure. No, I think that makes sense. So the pitch is one data point, is something that you brought up a couple times. So let's talk about some other data points that maybe you can even get when you talk with the founders in the hallway or even with the pitch. But what do you believe are data points that you take in are important from, we'll call it a situational awareness perspective, a non-verbal cue or body language perspective, or a confidence perspective that are important?
Yeah, I think that definitely matters a lot. We're focused here on talking about the making investment process, but I think we're also we're more so in the business of like landing planes than we are in taking off planes. Like so making the investment is really just the first step in our journey with a company and with the founders that we back. And so the pitch is very important, but again, the nonverbal cues and sort of understanding who you're getting into bed with is also something that we take very seriously. And sort of as we discussed as a team, the merits of an opportunity is like team and founder becomes very high on our list. Founder is also just one person on a team. So we want to look at how rounded out those teams are. What are the different team members bringing to the table, and why they're in the best position to execute.
Sure. No, that makes sense. So the flip side of it, right, is you see a lot of companies and you have to kind of eliminate some of them. So in that getting to know you section of the relationship, do you believe that there's certain red flags that when you see that, it makes you feel, I'm not really sure about this founder, and be kind of curious what some of them are? Like, is it, you see the founders arguing too intensely with each other? Maybe you ask a question and only one of the team members knows and that person's not one of the founders. What do you see as some of those kind of red flags that sit in the back of your head?
I think that over the years, through events like this and others, founders have gotten better at actually understanding what investors are looking for. And so I don't want to say that all pitches have become formulaic, but I'd say, like, generally speaking, there's an improvement of people like knowing what investors are looking for and checking the boxes in terms of how they want to set up. Like, a lot of presentations actually like follow similar structures when they're walking through a pitch deck. So as far as red flags that I see, the most frequent that I've run into is people sort of inflating experience or progress in their business journey. It's really off-putting to me personally when a company is portraying sort of where they are in their business as like having completed something, and then as we dig deeper, like seeing that things may not be as far along. And I think there's a tendency for founders to want to project that everything is going super well, and that you're growing, executing on everything. And I think going back to the point that, like, recognizing that we're going into like that, this is like investing in a company is really like a marriage with the founder, and that, like, we want to have an open and transparent relationship, and that comes through sort of like the feeling out phase as well. So specifically as a red flag is like being disingenuous about things like business progress. I'll say one specific example that I laugh about is, like, people like to put logos of their credentials, and there was one founder who had put, like, they put a Harvard logo, and I went to look at their LinkedIn, and they had taken like one of those online classes during COVID that was offered by Harvard, and like, why am I going to take anything that you say honestly if that's what you're going to do?
Yeah, so good pointer. If you guys took any online classes at Harvard, you might as well just take it off your LinkedIn right now.
Well, no, you could put that credential on the LinkedIn, but to just put a Harvard logo in your deck as saying, like, that's where, as if to say, like, that's where I went to school. You don't have to go to Harvard to get funding, by the way.
Great. Well, that's good to know. So you don't have to hire someone from Harvard, just in case you were worried about that. So one of the tests that I've heard from investors is the concept of, like, the airporter, the personality test. And the kind of airport test goes is if you have a layover, right? And there's different types of layovers. There's a 30-minute layover, there's an 8-hour layover, and there's one where I got stuck in Japan, I don't know how I'm going to get home type of layover. So for you, looking at a founder's personality, where do you kind of sit in the minimum required layover time? You think, like, 8-hour layover time with them, you feel comfortable, or does it have to be more in order for you to feel like this is the right founder for me to recommend to my team?
I think the time bound of that is super specific, but I think the airport cliche holds true because it's true. I think that I'm probably speaking to a founder anywhere from, I would say, a minimum of a dozen times, though, before we get to the point where we're actually making an investment. So I'll flip that around and say, like, we get pitches sometimes where it's like, hey, our round is, this is our pitch, our round's closing next week, do you want to participate? And it's like, whoa, this is the first time I talked to you. Like, that's definitely not the appropriate setup for us to feel comfortable making an investment. For a couple reasons. First is which is, like, most likely it's actually not going to play out like that. And so this actually goes back to the point on the disingenuous side, which is, like, if you're telling me in the first time that I'm meeting you that your round is closing next week, we're not really set up to support that. So our default position is going to be no. So then a week from now, as a founder, you may come back and say, oh, it actually didn't close. And so you already have then put yourself in a position where you're not able to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on. And that's really like at the highest level, like that's what we're betting on, is that the founder is going to be able to deliver on what they say they will.
Yeah, I can't count the number of times that founders have said, hey, like we're closing next week, and that didn't end up happening. So can appreciate that perspective. And I think it's really important also to think about like how can we slow down the relationship, but in the same time keep the pacing that aligns with the ultimate goals of the founders.
Well, yeah, and I think there's a tendency, and I think it's well understood, to sort of create urgency on the founder's part around the situation because you want to seem like the business is in demand. But that's not, I think a lot of investors, especially who focus in specialty areas like both of us do, like that's not the way that we sort of approach the space. And so maybe the market has moved more in our favor to sort of put all parties in more alignment around that. But it's encouraging to see.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think that's what's great about this forum is you have an opportunity to meet some of the investors here with a little bit less pressure. Some of you might not even be raising until next year, but you can start to build a relationship with people like Brandon. So the next segment, I really want to get into like the diligence process and the investment committee and some of the behind the scenes things. So maybe Brandon, it would be helpful if you could share like what are the general steps? Like you mentioned, like there's 12 meetings, but what happens behind the scenes in terms of your standard diligence process?
Yeah, I think it's probably worth clarifying. Like 12 meetings does not mean like 12-hour-long sessions, but I'd say in circumstances where like situations felt most fluid with founders is like you can pick up the phone and call me like, hey, I have this question, like we're going through this. Not that they are expected to be at your beck and call at any given moment, but that's just sort of a reflection of sort of the modern world that we operate in and getting to that level of comfort.
Sure. So in terms of your process with diligence, like maybe talk me through a little bit of the data room process. What are the types of documents that you request and what are the types of, we'll call it soft requests that you do in terms of learning about the customers and learning about the segment of the startups? Yeah.
So speaking of the diligence process, at a high level, it's like you have the formal process where you go through IC, and I think we'll cover that a little bit more. And then you have sort of the informal process of just like getting all the ducks in a row, which we go through the data room and we sort of use what's in there, frequently have additional requests, and try and summarize that all into an investment memo that ultimately goes to our committee. As it relates to what's in the data room and what we're looking for most. Obviously, the financial model is important to us. We want to, but we believe that in almost all cases it will actually be wrong. What we're really looking for when we're looking at the financial model is to say, like, do you what was your thought process in the assumptions that went into it? Were they sound, and is that something you can reasonably deliver on? And do you understand sort of like the value drivers of your business and the risks to those value drivers?
Yeah, so I think that's a good pointer, is that when you're working on your financials for your data room, it's not just about showing some hockey stick curve, but it's about what are the assumptions that drive the inputs that ultimately drive the output.
Exactly.
So in a data room, right, I'm sure you've seen all different versions of data rooms. What are the areas where you see, I would say, weaknesses that oftentimes you feel like you have to go back to the founders really regularly to ask to get more? Is it the cap tables that are incomplete? Is it, marketing or strategy documents, or is it something else?
Cap tables is definitely one that comes to mind often, but I would say like it really depends on the company and sort of what exactly their business model is. And I understand, like I'm more lenient in this side because I understand companies don't want to just sort of like throw everything out there for everyone and want it, like they're willing to provide information, but if they want pointed questions on what they're looking for. So for me, most often that comes down to like anonymized client pipelines, as well, client listings and prospect pipelines, so that we could sort of match the financial plan to the way that's being operationalized through the funnel and see, is that really there?
So let's take one of those pieces, the cap table, for a second. If you get the startup's cap table, do you feel that it's necessary for you to talk to one of their previous round investors, assuming that they had a previous round?
Yeah, we'll typically speak to other investors through the process. That'll happen later in our process. Typically, that's more on the confirmatory stage. So I guess let me try and marry the informal process of diligence to our more formal process, which is, the way I look at it is like pre-term sheet signing and post-term sheet signing. So post-term sheet signing, everything you do is confirmatory. Pre-term sheet is like, okay, do we want to, like, is this an investment we want to make, and is this a company we want to partner with? And we'll typically push forward we prefer to push forward a lot of our calls other than with other investors, but more so on the customer side and on being that we're focused on insurance all the time, is like, even if someone's not your customer today, we feel like we often know somebody that we could call who may be your customer or who may be a supplier to you at some point in time. Side note that, like, we see if we believe that we can sort of create value in that opportunity by making that introduction, that's helpful to us as well. And so we want to understand, like, from those buyers, like, going back to my point about, like, we're trying to answer, does this fit a certain thesis of ours about better pricing, access to more product, et cetera, et cetera. We want to know from the people who would be users or suppliers of that service, like, how well you're actually answering that.
No, that makes sense. So going back to all of the different interactions that you had with the founders, and we'll keep using that number 12 for a moment. So with each interaction with the founder, are there things that you're testing or looking for in terms of signals, like how quickly they respond to your emails, how thoughtful their responses are? And let's just say in this process, you happen to introduce them to someone, what that person's perspective is of them that you introduce them to. How important is that, or is that a signal that you use at all?
Yeah, I think that last part is extremely important, like the third-party reference check, because again, like, you're meeting someone, you're getting to know them. That part is hard to, like, I like the bit on the number 12, but that part is really hard to quantify. Like, your relationship with someone comes down to gut at the end of the day. You can run the numbers and you can do all the analysis, but again, like, business, like, especially in early stage investing, businesses are going to go through very difficult times at one point or another. It may at certain times even be binary in terms of the outcome for the company. Like, will you be able to operate another day, or will this company have to make a decision to shut down or sell and the like? And so, like, ultimately, like, we can, as investors, we can help sort of guide that, but it comes under the helm of the founders to ultimately, I'll go back to the landing the plane analogy. And so that's why we're focused so much on evaluating who we're getting into bed with.
Sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. So the more time you have, the more cues that you can aggregate and really understand. So the last section I wanted to talk about is really your investment committee, which ultimately, for the founders that don't know that much about the VC process, it's the people who make the decision. So what's the structure of your investment committee? Does your investment committee include any outside groups like your limited partner group at all that's part of that?
Yeah, so I think worth contextualizing here that, like, I speak to a lot of other investors about their committees as well, because a lot of them are structured differently, but I'll talk to how we do it at HSCM Ventures, which is our team is set up with 4 partners actually, and one is Mike Millett, who's the managing principal of Hudson Structured Capital Management, so he sits across both teams, and 2 advisors, and those are the voting committee members. And our committee meets once every 2 weeks, and sort of how we shepherd any individual opportunity through our process is that we invest as a team, but really, like any great team needs a leader. So there's typically someone who's championing that deal through. It's not just sort of lobbing it up and trying to do everything by what everyone is sort of thinking on any given day. And so how that typically follows is one of us on the team will form a relationship with the founder. We'll do the pitch. We'll have our 12 phone calls. Sorry. And then we will, we'll start to introduce other team members into the fold as well, which is typically even before our committee process. At a certain point, like everyone on our team will actually have the opportunity to meet with founders and make sure that we have a consistent gut feel about that team, ask any remaining questions. Typically at that point in the process, we're not fully through our diligence, but the rest of the team we've done a lot of work, and so the rest of the team is sort of brought up to speed on the company and the opportunity. And then somewhere along that point, there will be an informal preview with the committee as well. So that when we actually go to present to the committee, we're typically more predisposed towards approval than not. Like nobody likes to go to committee and then get shut down. So the way to avoid that is by sort of making sure that everyone's brought to speed throughout. So that ends up making it more like it is a formal gate, but it ends up like depressurizing that situation, I'd say.
Sure. So when your investment committee makes a decision, is that a decision to, move forward with the term sheet process, or do you actually make a decision on kind of the bounds of negotiation that person can kind of have the authority for the deal?
I would say that's dependent on the circumstance and who's leading the deal. I think if Vikas, our CIO, is leading the deal, he probably has a little bit more leeway than I do in that circumstance. But I would say more often than not, it's really around moving forward with the term sheet, and then we move into a confirmatory stage from there. But again, I think it's dependent on the circumstance. We've done it both ways.
Great. So final question is, what's one parting piece of advice you would have for startups that, they've gotten into a discussion with investors and they're really trying to make sure things go smoothly to ultimately get to a decision?
I just think I think founders approach investors often not realizing that post-investment tomorrow, you'll actually be sitting on the same side of the table. And so keeping that in mind as you're going through the courting process of an investment, I think will shift your perspective a little bit in terms of how you approach the market.
Yeah, no, can totally appreciate that, because ultimately, right, it's a team, right? If the investors are becoming part of the cap table, you might as well start treating them like that ahead of time. So round of applause for Brandon.
Thanks, David. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to ask Aaron to come up, and as a quick preface, I know there's 38 of you presenting. Aaron has been working tirelessly over the past several days, including over the weekend, to get all of your slides in order and to get them in a cohesive way. So he's going to talk to you about how things are going to work through the presentations, and then I'll come back up and invite companies as they go along.
All right, thanks, David. All right, so we've got a lot going on here, guys. Just want to kind of run through logistics real quick with how this is going to work. First of all, we've got some seats open over here. There's some seats back here. So folks that are standing, if you've got an open seat beside you, if you'll kind of raise your hand and let folks see where they can sit down over here. Hopefully we can get everybody in where they can see see everything and enjoy this without having to stand all afternoon. So the way this is going to work is startups. You can see on the screen here, we're getting it there. Yeah, we've done a lot. Oh. Go to a slideshow there, Emily, at the slideshow menu. There you go, from beginning. There it is. We're adapting on the fly. We've got some people out sick, so we're all learning as we go here, guys. So what we want to do, this is the order you're going to be presenting in. This is the first session here this morning. So startups, look at where you are in this order. When the company 2 ahead of you is up on stage presenting, you should be over here in line. And my friend Aisha over here, if you're not up here in line, she's going to come out here and try and find you. She's a lot nicer than I am, so be glad she's the one doing that. So for instance, when Boardwalk's up here, Cognosure and DataCrest should be in line. When Cognosure is presenting, then Ecopia should be in line, and so forth. Not that complicated, but just want to make it really clear. So that way you guys will just get in line over here. You're ready to go. This is going to be very fast paced. Remember, you have 5 minutes to pitch, and it's going to be a strict 5 minutes. The clock is here in the front. At 5 minutes, you need to stop, or David will have to cut you off so that we can stay on time today. So with that, we'll go ahead and have the first 3. If you guys will come up here and get in line and Boardwalk, David will have you ready. I think that's pretty much it.
All right, great. Thanks, Aaron. And I think one thing to add to what Aaron shared is if anything goes wrong with your presentation, we're going to just put you at the end of the section and we'll pick it up. If we can't work it out, we can't work it out. But, you know, the investors are here, so there'll be a number of breaks that you can talk with them. So first one up is Michael from Boardwalk. So they are in our MGA lab.
Thanks, David. Thanks. And this works. Yeah, this works. Let me get the slide going. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Full house here today. And yeah, we have, in a bid for time, I know we have 5 minutes, so we're going to run through these slides really quickly and just try to give you a high-level overview of what we do. It's you know, it's complex, so let's get into it. I'm Michael Malfa, the co-founder of Boardwalk Insurance. I'm joined by my co-founder Andrew Nguyen. And we are on the agent side in Canada. So we have an agency, a commercial insurance agency in Canada. And we've been on this side for 10 years, 10 plus years, distributing commercial insurance in the SMB space, P&C. And we've found that there's a lot of pain points in trying to scale a business and grow a book of business. There we go. Yeah, so what we found is that like working for 10 years in the space, it's very difficult to scale a business and grow a book of business. It's it's process driven. There's lots of pain points, lots of bottlenecks, and you know, we're heavily reliant on the broker. The customer sees the broker as a source of truth and an advisor. So we found that how do we enable the broker to actually grow this distribution channel? So we found that the broker has a lack of tools. As being on that side of brokers, we didn't have the tools. We didn't have the technology. We didn't have the partnerships, and we didn't have the ability to scale our book of business and grow the brokerage. And we were competing with many other brokers that had similar product shelves. So these are a couple of the pain points that we were experiencing. So we figured, how do we do this? So Boardwalk, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build the fastest growing commercial insurance brokerage in Canada. So we're looking to scale the agency model. And when I say brokerage in Canada, that's the term for agency. So we really want to scale this agency model. How do we scale this agency model? We need to attract entrepreneurial, like-minded brokers that want to grow a book of business and grow and have some kind of footprint in the business. And how we're going to attract these brokers and expand our distribution is by giving them a toolkit to succeed. And that toolkit is not only partnerships with markets, it's a back-end office that gives them the tools to succeed. It's the technology to allow them to deliver a seamless experience to their customers. So we're essentially enabling the customers to deliver that seamless user experience to their customers. And as we grow this channel across Canada of this broker network, we are going to look at delivering products to them, unique products to these brokers. So these brokers will not only have this back-end support, this technology that we're plugging into to deliver a seamless experience to their customers, but we're looking to develop products that they can distribute that are unique in the marketplace and address underserved needs for their clients. This is the target market that our brokers will be focusing on. So it's in the SMB, retail, commercial realty, contractors, professional services. giving them like a very seamless buying experience. We want to give the customer, we want to enable the brokers to give the customer seamless buying and service experience. And then, you know what, we might not have time to go through this. You have to just bear with us. We haven't updated our slides in preparation for this. So there's the branch model. And then in the branch, as they open these branches, they're going to be supported by the brand. So we're going to constantly be advocating for our brokers, building a brand, building the philanthropy so they can actually stand behind something they're proud of and have the toolkit to grow and scale that business. In Canada, the insurance market's $3.5 billion in commercial premium, P&C premium. We plan for a 10% penetration rate over a 5-year span. Let's skip to this. That's the current team. Andrew, myself. We're in terms of where we're at today, I'll speak to that. We're 2 years in. It'll be 2 years in March. We have one office now that we're operating. We're about close to nearing $3 million in gross written premium, and we are using the system right now. And we're constantly honing in the system to deliver more and more efficiency to the broker so they can scale a lot quicker. By 2025, we plan to be at 15 million in gross written premium, and that should be more of a hockey puck, like a hockey stick. As we open up these offices, we'll gain more access to distribution and be able to grow that premium. And that's it. And I welcome any questions, but we're probably going to take them in the foyer in a bid for time. So if anyone's interested or wants to talk further, we could talk more in the foyer. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next up is Sai with Cogniture.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Sai. I'm the founder, CEO of Cogniture. I have been in the insurance industry for 25 years, solving business problems with technology. So the problem we are solving is the problem of unstructured data in the insurance. If you look at it, the document AI space is exploding crazy. Like it's growing at 35%. If you look at it, financial services, insurance, healthcare is the biggest driver of this technology adoption. So coming to the commercial lines, on an average, 100 million submissions are processed in the industry through the system. 90% of those submissions in the commercial lines come in emails with attachments like accords, applications, SOVs, and loss runs. All of that is an unstructured data. So underwriters have to spend, on an average, 3 to 5 hours to really understand what is there as a risk and manually key in that data into their rating system so that they can give a quote to the brokers. So this is extremely inefficient, and as a result of this, it's just not the carriers. The brokers, MGAs, wholesalers, everybody has the same problem. So the target market, who is impacted? As you can see, the insured, the agencies, the wholesalers, MGAs, carriers, reinsurer, everybody in the ecosystem. And if you look at it, the number of people that are impacted is millions of customers. There are 400,000 agencies. So right now we are focusing on P&C commercial lines, carriers and wholesalers, mainly the underwriting submission intake. But we have other use cases. This is big. It can become extremely big. So what is the opportunity or the benefit that we are trying to address? Today, the submission to court takes anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks on an average. And the time the underwriters are spending is definitely 3 to 5 hours or more. I just kept it low. The cost of processing, again, these numbers are, depending on whom you ask, they give you a different number. But we see that with our algorithms or our platform, it can be reduced to a 1 day to 3 days a quote, which is golden in commercial lines. And you can, there's no manual data entry. It can be completely eliminated. And see, if we process just, we estimate if I process 10 million, 10% of the market, we will be at 250 million ARR on this use case in next 5 years. Even if I don't hit 10%. So the opportunity, the value prop is massive, significant. Just if you can think about this one slide, that's what it is all about. Then, so we are only focused on insurance. There are many companies might be there in the market space. So what is special about Cognisure, right? I say there are 5 reasons. Number one, see, there's a lot of algorithms that you can ready to use. You don't need to train. There is a normalization is a problem. Every loss run, every carrier gives us a different format. You need to normalize. We have analytics to support the platform, and we have a human in the loop. No matter what you do, there are going to be exceptions. And the 5th element is, if you are solving a complex problem like this, you have to play with the ecosystem, like Guidewire, Duck Creek. So we have the accelerators or APIs built into the ecosystem. So just to give you an example of how this works, so I think, So think about this 100-page, this loss run, and then our platform can do it within a minute, just to get you what they want to see. So how do we make money? Like we charge a subscription and usage, which is a transaction-based pricing, and proof of success. So we have been in the business for 3 years. We are like extremely, a lot of 100+ clients are working on a POCs and this one, and we have 12 live clients which are happy, referenceable, and we will be profitable next year. I haven't raised money yet. We'll be doing a Series A next year. So this again, I would just want to say there's a lot of large, massive clients are doing pilots with me, and these are going to be, we are finalizing the contracts with many, and this is the ecosystem, the Guidewire, Duck Creeks of the world. And Gartner also mentioned as in their hype cycle. Yeah, so we are a finalist in InsurTech Hartford and State Farm top 10. So going great. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sai. Next up is Tom from DataCrest.
Thanks, David. Morning, everyone. Tom Young, founder of DataCrest. I'm about 20 years in the commercial property and casualty space. Worked at 2 different MGAs. I ran my own agency, scaled that up, and sold that about 6 years ago. And most recently, I was at Lockton as a producer partner. So I'm deeply knowledgeable on what we're getting into. And I started the company as a producer, as somebody who sells for a living, and how to get deals done, right? That's what we're focused on at DataCrest. How can we make our clients get deals done quicker and keep them for a long time, right? So in addition to myself, on the tech side, we have Dusty, who's our head of product. He was at a carrier for 13 years and then worked at a digital MGA up here called CoverWhale. He built out a lot of their tech stack, so he's working on our products. And then our CTO worked at Capgemini, which is a very large international technology firm working with insurance carriers on their policy administration systems. Before that, he helped scale up a company that was acquired by Capgemini. So what we're doing is front-end solutions to get deals in quicker and deals done more efficiently. So I started the company based on a very specific problem called supplemental applications in the commercial insurance space, right? So who's bought D&O here or E&O for their business, right? So each business in America is buying D&O, E&O, workers' comp, a variety of different products, and they're filling out commercial supplemental applications. So these applications are 10 or 15 pages long, Word, PDF documents that the insured does not like doing at all. The broker does not like doing, right? So what happens oftentimes is the broker is completing these applications on behalf of their insureds, which is illegal and an E&O exposure for the agency, but they're doing it because they're saying, hey, please sign this document so we can get this coverage bound. So that's what we started the company on, to provide that in the application process and making it a lot smoother. So we're getting these applications back. It usually takes about 26, 28 days to get those back. We're getting them back in 4.5 days. So a huge margin as far as getting that information. And we're bringing it in a structured data environment, okay? So our client or our target market is MGAs. Every deal an MGA does is dependent on a supplemental application for the most part. And some of the newer MGAs that are being stood up right now, they have an application process in the beginning that's better, but the vast majority of the market is taking data in an old way, right? So that's our first product called App Ease, Application Ease. Getting that data back in, bringing it in a structured environment, right? And then we're taking that data and doing a lot of good things with it. We're getting in a structured environment, and then we're using AI to determine what the application responses are and how that can affect claims. So one MGA we did a study with recently, we determined a 42% delta in their loss ratios based upon one answer. So they're a 20-year-old MGA with about $75 million in premium. They had no idea that this one answer determined a 42% delta in their claims ratios. They have that data now. They have that decision-making for their underwriter to make that, when the submission comes in, they can make a informed decision, right? So that's what this second product is called Insights 360, taking that app data, which is the most rich data set that they get, and comparing it to claims outcomes. Currently, that's coming in a PDF, going into an underwriting file, never to be seen again. Think 10 of 15 pages worth of information on your insureds, right? So that's Insights 360. We're also creating quote bind issue, so a certain percentage of those applications are eligible to get a quote out right away. Right, so taking that application in, pushing a quote right away, so the insured or the agent can bind coverage in a matter of minutes, which currently takes about 6 weeks. Right. Third product is called Assess. So taking that application data and then deploying content that these carriers and MGAs already have around loss control and risk management. All right, per that application, you don't have certain things in your business, and these carriers and MGAs have that loss control and risk management, and deploying it specifically to them and saying, if you comply with this over the policy year, then you're going to get a credit at renewal. So what we're looking to do is underwriting profitability, renewal retention, and ease of doing business, which makes our clients more attractive to their customers. So taking the data in quicker and then deploying that data in a variety of different ways to have better underwriting outcomes, better retention, and ease of doing business. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks, Tom. So for a moment before we have Ecopia come up, I know there's a few of you that are standing in the back. There's a few seats on the left here, so if you want to take a moment, there's a couple seats over here. There's a seat in the front. There's a couple seats on the side. So if you want to come in, you're welcome to, but if you enjoy standing, that's totally fine too. Just want to give you that moment so you don't have to feel uncomfortable coming in and sitting down. Okay, great. So we'll have Ecopia go now.
Thanks, David. Good morning, everyone. My name is Trey. I'm from Ecopia. We're a global geospatial data solution provider. Today, I'm going to talk about three things: the source of truth of property, of every property in the U.S., the important elements in creating this, and why it's challenging to get it right, and then how Ecopia is solving these issues to create the most comprehensive, accurate, and up-to-date building maps. So I'm going to start with the vision of a company. So our vision of the company is to provide a digital source of truth for every property in the world. So what that means to us is we want to leverage all sources of data that we can access, may it be satellite imagery, aerial imagery, street view, drone, mine it through our AI, and then create a physical digital representation of the world. So our property attribute solution is going to have property attributes such as roof size, roof condition, stories, square footage, etc. So to explain the best value of this, I want to talk about the challenging elements in creating the source of truth for every property. So the first one is comprehensiveness. The reality is there's no single source of data that will give you all the attributes that P&C insurers need. So you're left with sourcing multiple data sets, but then the problem comes in: how do you match and fuse all these different data sources? And it's challenging because, especially when you're looking at all of US. The second challenge is accuracy at scale. So think about how you're creating the property information. Or at one end of the spectrum, you have manual roof reports that's being created, which are very accurate but does not scale. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's off-the-shelf AI solutions which can be produced at scale but have unstable accuracy. And the third challenge is nationwide recency. So how often is the data being updated? Does, for example, if you're updating few cities in the US, does that in a month, does that constitute of a monthly update? So it's very important that your data should be up to date. So I want to talk about our track record now. So Ecopia has been around for almost a decade now. We have hundreds of customers, hundreds of countries of the world. Our track record includes creating the first and only complete map of all of US, Australia, the most comprehensive map of every tree, road, and building in sub-Saharan Africa for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and a 3D map of Italy. And we just got awarded a contract from Government of Canada to map top 100 cities in 3D. So that work's starting soon. Oh, and then we don't operate in just insurance space. So our other clients include defense intelligence, public sector, large telecom firms, and NGOs. And just building upon that foundation, we tapped the insurance market right before COVID, and we've gained immediate traction. We're actively engaged with nearly half of the top 100 P&C carriers, and we've signed about 5 of the top 10 carriers as our users. So I talked about the challenges. So we're leveraging advanced AI to solve these challenges. So the first one for comprehensiveness. So to ensure comprehensiveness, we're employing a countrywide multi-source fusion approach. So we're essentially gathering all these data sources, mining it through RA, and then creating the most comprehensive data set. The second challenge is accuracy, accurate at scale. So we're leveraging highly accurate feature extraction technology to produce the most accurate at scale data sets. And then the third one, nationwide updates. We have a change detection approach where we're identifying what properties are changing over time. And this is what we're creating. We're creating the most robust property attribute solution in the US, and then followed on of the rest of the world. We're going to be extracting over 40 attributes, such as building height, foundation, property features, et cetera, and offering at a price point that is not only feasible for claims, but also for underwriting and ongoing analytics. What we're looking for, so as I said, we've been around for almost a decade now, completely bootstrapped. Our compound annual growth's been 86% in the last 6 years. What we're looking for is partnerships. To expand our footprint in the insurance space, what we do offer is a pilot. So we've seen the accuracy of our data. What we ask is just give us a list of addresses. We run it through our AI and then compare the results that you're getting. And this is a free proof of concept that we offer for all the insurance carriers. And yeah, that was the end of it. I'll be available after if anyone has questions. Thank you.
All right, thanks. We've heard a lot about data, but I'm kind of curious about some of the policyholders that are impacted by these InsurTechs. How about pets? For sure is up next.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, let's spell a little louder. Why not? My name's Adam, and we are the first financial platform for pet parents. So our main goal is to help the 90 million pet owners in the United States better manage their pets' finances, and right now we mainly do that through banking and insurance. Our long-term vision is to be the loved company that helps you with every aspect of pet parenthood on one platform with one monthly membership. But the first problem we were founded to solve, and the main one we'll be talking about today, is pet insurance. So trying to find the right pet insurance policy is time-consuming and overwhelming. When you do find that right policy, the claims process can be a real headache. By leveraging our neobank infrastructure and our 2 years experience as a licensed broker, we're uniquely positioned to address and to fix these pain points. So the main way we'll be doing that is by combining an amazing buying process with the best claims experience on the market. When it comes to the buying process, we are building out an advanced recommendation flow that not only takes the time to educate pet parents while they're buying, but also takes into account some of their personal financial preferences while making recommendations. We found that when we did this as a broker, we had significantly higher conversion rates than our partners' other distribution channels, and we'll now be porting that into our own product as we launch our own MGA. When it comes to our claims experience, our launched neobank actually gives us the opportunity to provide direct billing at any veterinarian clinic in the United States. So pet parents no longer need to pay that bill up front, wait for reimbursement, which can take weeks or in some cases even months. When it comes to a bit of our policy overview that we're looking to launch, we're going to be insuring pets from 8 weeks old to 10 years. Our average premium price will be around $45 a month, and we will actually be targeting mainly no limit policies. We can actually talk about why this doesn't present much higher risk than limited policies later on today if you're interested. When it comes to geography, we'll be initially launching in about 7 states and expanding US-wide within our first 3 years. And we're going to be targeting millennial pet parents who are spending twice as much on their pets as baby boomers and treating them more and more like children. I certainly do this with my 2 pets. One of them sleeps in bed with us and often kicks us off his favorite spot on the couch. God, do we love him. When it comes to acquisition, it'll be a mix of our direct channels that we've already built out. We have a very strong organic SEO game with blogs focused on pet health and pet finances. We have a highly engaged bi-weekly newsletter with over 50,000 pet parents, and we've been experimenting really successfully with in-person events that we'll port over to our insurance side. And then we'll also work with our pre-established distribution partners, vets, rescues, shelters, breeders. What's really exciting is that our neobank actually lets us provide a more holistic offering than just pet insurance. It's really the perfect complement to insurance and provides an extra layer of confidence. So right now, you can open up a debit card with us right here. For every dollar you spend, you'll earn points, and you can use those points on veterinary care. It's a great way to cover your deductible or your copay or anything not covered by your insurance policy if you opted not to get wellness. But what's really interesting is we're already collecting extra data on what folks are giving their pets. We'll use that data and combine it with our claims data from our MGA to actually provide advanced underwriting and dynamic pricing in the future. And we'll also offer other features like automated savings to make sure you always have enough on your For Sure card to cover your pet's monthly expenses, as well as any unforeseen health issues. When it comes to our regulatory plan, as I mentioned, we are already a licensed broker and have been for 2 years. We have 4 licensed brokers on the team, including myself and our founders back there, Catherine and Kurji. And we are going to be looking to own the majority of the claims process. Our superpower is customer experience, and so we do want to own everything that a customer touches and make sure we're upholding the brand promise that we've already built. We know there's a huge market opportunity. We already know that we see our pets as kids now, and despite this, less than 3% of pets in the United States are insured. Now, we are up to about $2.6 billion in GWP in pet insurance. This was a 30% growth from 2020, and that growth rate has been accelerating since 2017. So the opportunity is huge, and we are ready to take advantage of it. When it comes to our traction so far, we've already helped over 24,000 pet parents navigate pet insurance with personalized quotes. We've helped over 2,800 save and plan for critical care with our For Sure card, and our NPS score is over double the industry average for both, a 90 for insurance, 71 for banking. We've done 650,000 in GWP as a broker. 345,000 has been spent on our card already. Over half of that is on pet, where we are again collecting that additional information and data. And 94% of our surveyed cardholders have said they are interested in an insurance offering from us. So we do have a captive audience. They want more, and we're ready to provide it. And we have the team to do it as well. We have a world-class team. We come from Facebook, Amazon, Farmers Insurance, and veterinary backgrounds. We understand this problem very, very well and are poised to solve it. We are well-funded right now. We're looking to secure capacity and distribution for our MGA, but are very interested in talking to investors about our potential Series A next year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adam. And I just want to validate for the VCs in the room, Catherine actually did go to Princeton. She didn't take an online class. So you can be sure on that one. And next up is Harbor AI, Paul.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Paul Gagliotti. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Harbor AI. I went to University of Arizona, but my partner did go to Princeton. So you can look that up on LinkedIn. We're a specialty infrastructure for commercial insurers. We do 2 core things at Harbor AI. We qualify, then quantify risk. We operate a hub and spoke model that enables capacity providers like insurers to get their existing distribution more efficiently. We do that by passing information from insureds through our platform and their brokers, enabling the information to flow seamlessly to the insurance carriers. We use an AI-encoded data standard that's proprietary to us. It has 20,000 dynamically tied underwriting questions we've been working on for 5 years. That information can then be appended by third-party data sources that allows that information then flow to the carrier, automating very sophisticated underwriting transactions. Platform as a hub connects all these parties in a unique and individual fashion. While everybody's connected, they are all also independent and their data is segmented based on the specific use case. Our platform is an AI automation platform. It processes real-time transactions, and our insurance data standard enables those transactions to provide structured data to insurance carriers, providing more underwriting insights, reinsurance capacity decisions, and an overall reduction of expense. We enable workflows to our drag and drop tool. It's very low code. We represent everything in an AI encoded insurance knowledge graph. We can actually represent submissions in a semantically related fashion. That semantically related fashion enables underwriting decisions to be automated that typically were only done by a human. A couple things, we talked about the standard, the 20,000 underwriting questions. Every one of our questions follows a global unique referencing identifier. That allows information while being independent to be dependent to solve very complex scenarios. So think of things like dates, times, stuff like that. We're also able to track the provenance or where the information comes from, whether it comes from the insurer, the insured, the broker, or third-party data set. We have a bunch of different user interfaces. Pop Form's a dynamically generated form. We have a chat bot, a portal. We can embed our experience on any website with a little snippet of code. Sorry for this, it was in Keynote and the PowerPoint got a little screwed up. So basically a little snippet of code can embed that experience on the retailer's website, wholesaler's website, insurer's website, third party, et cetera. Our AI enables explainable decisions to an underwriter. So right here is a snippet of code. That's actually what an underwriter would see. We use various models to do this. This enables an ENS-specific transaction that we work on to be able to provide a contextual answer to a human, because we have to be able to explain, as we're going to talk to DFS later today, why we actually make an underwriting decision. So here you could see the reasons, and there you could see the output. The source for rules, they're going to be generally done by the carriers. We're currently working with carriers like Berkeley, Markel, AmTrust to help them streamline their more sophisticated excess and surplus lines transactions. This is actually a submission for a roofer represented in a neural network. Right up here, you'll see all the different class codes, and then the way the node is for roofing class, and then all the specific data points tied to that. This enables us to pass this information throughout the process and the ecosystem, really, and reducing the expense in the whole process. Here's also an example of how we generate information. We use this OpenAI GP3, and I'm not the CTO, so my genius data science partner did this. But this is an example of one of the open source AI libraries that we use that actually generated all of this text of what that project description is. Why that's really important is because in the underwriting process, as you heard from some of the companies here today, there's a lot of segmented information. That information needs to be communicated to an underwriter to make a decision really effectively. So by doing this, we're able to take data, structure it, and then give a contextual answer for how that works. Our machine learning models are very complex. They enable us to basically take specific pieces of information, use that information to make more complex underwriting decisions while explaining it all through there. Our model is a streaming API. It's a bidirectional API. That API allows us to take information asynchronously between parties. That's really important in things like excess and surplus lines, where you have things like regulatory forms and stuff like that. These models then drive our user interfaces. So every interface is tied to that same workflow you see there for our drag and drop menu, which enables us to deploy the same infrastructure in various different places. So yeah, talked about our API and stuff like that. We are doing a round now. We're currently in production with a couple of different carriers, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Next up is Highwing.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Eric Matisik, and I'm the founder of Highwing, and really excited to be here this morning to talk about what we think is one of the most exciting things happening in the world of commercial insurance. Just to frame up this massive opportunity in the world of insurance, we're a slice in this multi-trillion-dollar industry of a $500 billion middle and large market complex risk arena. So to understand where we live, we're trying to digitize one of the most important pieces of the insurance ecosystem that always is going to likely include humans. When we think about the nature of complex risk, large schedules, large amounts of data, complex data, human interaction in underwriting is paramount, but being able to automate the ordinary and humanize the extraordinary is really why Highwing exists. So when we think about Highwing on the go forward, oops, not a pro here. Loved Harbor, by the way. In commercial underwriting, specifically in some of the world's largest brokers and largest agencies, we know that the process is inefficient. Working with some of our partners, it takes 44 days on average from carrier to broker from the time that the complex risk transactions start to the time that they're bound. Not only is it time intensive, the amount of infrastructure and data to organize these transactions are significant, and it's not fast. When we think about how these travel today, 100% of these transactions in this $500 billion segment of insurance travel over Outlook email as we currently sit in this room. So that's why we wanted to build the first transaction platform for commercial insurance. We're connecting the world's largest brokers and the world's largest carriers to be able to humanize the elements of the transaction that are critical and automate those that are not. The way we're doing that is by bringing together this $500 billion market, by operating in the white space between the agency management systems and policy admin systems, and building a fully secure digital transaction platform. We've been able to extend our insured portal to be able to allow brokers the ability to work hand in hand with their insureds to get structured information at the source. And then we bring that in to our Highwing data model. Our Highwing data model has over 400 underwriting ready elements. We enrich that with third-party data. We cleanse it. And we make that available to the broker to be a superpower for them to be able to manage their client experience. When we think about the capabilities, we're building a true marketplace. The marketplace that we have is this 400 data element underwriting model that sits uniquely between the world's largest brokers and the world's largest carriers. And we live in the world of translation and integrations. On one side, we've built a fully ready out-of-the-box, first-in-class placement platform. When we think about placement platforms today, if any of you sit inside of agencies in the top 50 agencies in the United States, there's usually 2 to 3 screens up, lots of paper, lots of Excel files, lots of PDFs. We built a single platform with intelligent workflows to be able to pull all those elements together from the underwriting workflows all the way through loss runs, loss analysis, and all the client data and information into a single screen for brokers to be able to manage their client experience. From there, we give them insights and analytical tools to be able to grow their book and scale their business. And most importantly, we take that and allow them to submit to multiple markets simultaneously. And those 400 plus data elements can be immediately delivered to the front door and underwriting platforms of the world's largest carriers. From there, we really believe that the future of insurance is wrapped in the client experience around being able to take like-kind information and make it like-kind on both sides. What that means to us is that we don't expect carriers or brokers to adopt our unique model. We're the translation or the universal plug between those platforms that allows carriers to operate in their homegrown native systems and brokers to terminate those data elements out of their underwriting workflows. We're the magic in between that maps the elements to be able to seamlessly deliver those elements between the world's largest brokers and the world's largest carriers and provide a client experience that's first in class. We've got some partners that really believe this is the path too. Today, we currently work with 13 of the top 60 brokers in the United States, and we work with 4 of the top 10 carriers in the commercial and complex risk arena. When we think about where we're headed, we know that the innovation of tomorrow is powered by the data of today. The more we're able to help brokers organize, index, cleanse, and operationalize their data, no matter what InsurTech stands on this stage in the future, we know that it's going to allow brokers and carriers to operationalize those innovations because the data is clean, it's accurate, and most importantly, through world-class secure APIs, it's accessible. Highwing sits at the forefront of this, and I would invite any investors, brokers, or carriers that are interested in understanding how our system and platform is really modernizing the desks of today's modern brokers and carriers. Really excited to talk with you about that and what we believe is the most powerful movement in the large and middle market commercial arena in the next decade. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Eric. So we talked about coming up in San Francisco, December 8th, talking about resilience. Well, what better way to talk about resilience than InsurTech that focuses on that? Illuminar's up next.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm not actually here to talk about insurance today, so I'm going to be the odd one out once I get my slides together. So my name's Marcus Vaughan. I'm one of the co-founders of Illumina. We are a resilience technology platform, but a little bit about that in just a moment. I'm here representing my co-founder back in Australia, Josh, as well. We've got deep expertise in this space. We've been nerding out in risk management resilience for about 15, 16 years now, and now have moved that over really to help organizations prepare for the worst. And as you've probably experienced since COVID, it really has felt like we're living in a world of permacrisis. And that's great if you're into disaster porn, but if you're trying to run a business, it's a big issue. It's really complex and it's expensive, whether it's trying to deal with China shutting down its ports or manufacturing hubs on a weekly basis, or war in Ukraine. We've all felt supply chain over the last couple of years. Might come down to even trying to get some toilet paper at the shops every now and then. Cyber attacks and ransomware has become so prolific, it's now a service. Again, very expensive exercise. As David mentioned this morning, Hurricane Ian's turned into what's predicted to be the third largest, costliest disaster of recent times, and loss of key staff. I'm not sure if you guys saw the baggage handling mess at Heathrow earlier in the year, but we all learned pretty quickly it doesn't take too many people knocked out of a process to become a really expensive exercise. Myself included, actually blatant pitch, if you're in sales, come and talk to me afterwards, because I have my own people situation where I've got a pipeline that needs more people thrown at it. So the problem with that, we've got a really complex set of circumstances that organizations are trying to get through. Unfortunately, resilience practitioners have not really helped, and I can put my hand up and say that because I am a resilience practitioner. Over the years, we've been hyper-focused on making things very compliant and not very resilient. So great business continuity plans have been developed for auditors and regulators with really not a lot of thought to how applicable are they for people to actually execute on game day when a ransomware takes attack. We've created some really complex processes. I've seen crisis management plans and business continuity plans of hundreds of pages thick, and literally if you're expected to try and thumb through that when you're under acute stress, good luck. I mean, hands up, has anyone actually picked up a BCP in the last 12 months? Yeah, exactly. I was at a conference last week, a business continuity conference last week. I asked that of business continuity professionals. There's 200 in the room. One person put their hand up. Like that's the situation we've got. At the end of the day, that comes down to, so when a real situation unfolds, no one knows what they're doing. And we saw this in COVID. We'd spent years developing crisis management and business continuity programs for organizations. COVID kicked in, everyone ran around like chickens with their heads cut off. Now, for an organization, that's really expensive. For an insurer underwriting that organization, or many of those organizations, it's really, really expensive. So the good news is Illumina's here. We've been in market for the last 3 years, and we're really here to simplify resilience and make this stuff just really accessible for organizations, so they can essentially thrive through change with some clarity and confidence. We do this in 3 ways. First and foremost, we gamify the process of resilience and preparedness. So we use what we call micro simulations. They're 15-minute bite-sized activities, essentially for you and your teams to feel what it feels like to go through a ransomware attack or what it feels like to go through a 7-day power outage, and really focus your resources in terms of fixing that problem before it becomes very expensive. Secondly, we provide threat intelligence. We're gathering a huge amount of data from government agencies and organizations really to give our clients advance warning in terms of what's happening before it unfolds and they can get on top of it. And then finally, rather than giving organizations 200-page business continuity plans to try and thumb through, we've delivered simplified playbooks on their phone that they can access at the click of a button. Now, if you're an insurer in particular, this becomes really valuable because we're sitting on a huge amount of data in terms of what it looks like for organizations to prepare for and respond to situations. You can also start segmenting your clients and focusing on those organizations that have a particular risk, threat, or class, and giving them preparedness and response playbooks that are actually going to work. Traction, so we're pretty young. We're $1 million ARR at the moment, but that's climbing. We've got sticky clients, so we've got 1.5 million in committed revenue through 2 to 3 year contracts. NRR is really strong at 136%. We're going to get that up to 150 the way we're going at the moment. And we've got a really strong pipeline, thus the need for more salespeople and 50 clients and above. What we're really looking for at the moment is essentially to set up for a Series A in 2 years' time. We just completed a pre-Series A in August with QBE Ventures coming on board. We've got about 500,000 in capital that we could still allocate to a strategic partner, really so that we can partner up, get ready for the Series A in a couple of years and work together in terms of nailing this problem. So if you're in that space, please come and chat to me, or if you're in sales, come and chat to me. Thanks again. Cheers.
Thanks, Marcus. So many of you are familiar with the PayPal mafia, but what Kyle and I have been working to promote is actually the cover wallet mafia. So the initial team that sold to Aon, Kyle was part of it, and now he's on his next startup, just like the aspiring Elon Musk. So welcome, Kyle, to the stage.
Thank you. Hi there. So I'm Kyle Gagan, co-founder and CEO of Indem. Am I going the wrong way? Might be the end of it.
You want to start and give us a minute to get your slides?
Sure. So we're creating a self-serve conversational insurance platform. So imagine you want to learn about a product and you start a conversation, go through an underwriting experience, and purchase all via natural conversation. So as David was saying, I was working at CoverWallet, and I spent most of my time working between insurance carriers that offered us products via API and our engineering team. So I would negotiate underwriting questions, rewrite them to combine the products and data capture that we needed. I would define the quote proposals that we'd show to customers and what you'd modify, and just generally watch thousands of people go through a funnel, try to sell more insurance online. It became clear that a web form-based distribution model was not the communications-rich way to convert more users online. So started to look for another way to do it. Also representing a Australian co-founder, and so he's helped me find a way using dynamic data-driven systems. And so what we're building is really for the next generation, so millennials, younger generations, mobile first, spending more than 3 hours on their phone, doing most of their commerce via their phone as well. And increasingly using chat-based service to get their work done and finish off business. And so still, though, less than 5% of insurance is purchased fully online. There's always a phone call or an extended email chain. And so what we've built is this on-demand, user-driven experience. We can rapidly put in new products for customers to experience, and we can extend that platform out. So we can embed it with non-insurance digital platforms. We can customize the conversation to that brand. We can even plug it in for large carriers and brokers in their products. And so the way this works is we build a language model around an insurance product. It's got the answer to every question a customer might have. There's an underwriting sequence where customers will generate quotes according to their preferences, and they can purchase right online. So every conversation a customer has improves the model. If they ask questions we don't have, we add that in for the next user. And we've even incorporated a large language model, so questions that are right out of left field, we can answer and then come back and bring them back into our experience. So we've been moving quickly. We're about 1.5 years in. Our first product is wedding insurance. We're now building out the platform to plug in the new products. We're creating affinity partnerships in the wedding and event space. We're close to launching an event platform that's 20x addressable market, so it's all kinds of other events and then vendors, so photographers, caterers, DJs, and the like. And the last thing we're doing is talking to brokers and carriers about powering their platforms, and we've got one top 5 broker who wants to pilot a small professional program for physical therapists, fitness instructors, and those types of classes. So it's been really exciting to watch users go through our wedding insurance experience. It's a bit of an obscure product, and they'll often come frustrated, say, why do I need this? How much does it cost? How long does it take? So they'll ask those questions, get their answers, and then say, okay, I'm ready for a quote. They'll go through underwriting in 3 minutes or less and then purchase all online. And one of the really exciting things is that they tell us what they're worried about in their own words. So brides, for example, are worried when buying cancellation insurance about weather and COVID. And so at scale, this means we know unmet demand can build products and create an advantage in the market. So there's my co-founder, Patrick Daly. So we were roommates for 2 years. He's been working on conversational AI for 5. And it really took kind of intense collaboration. We believe we're 2 years ahead of anybody else working on conversational AI and insurance. And so we're just pulling further ahead every day as we work through this. So you can consider any product that's programmatic in nature. You go through an underwriting experience, see a quote, and press the buy online as an opportunity for us. And so we're kind of climbing the complexity stack in terms of products. So wedding insurance, relatively simple. gig work as simple as well, and we can continue to build up into something like homeowners, auto, or life accident and health. So that's us. We are looking for insurance carriers and partners who would like to talk about those products and get them out in a really rich bind online experience, and any investors looking to lead in a seed round. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. So you heard the first section of startups, and now we're going to roll into a break. So you're free to get some food, talk to some of the startups that you heard from, and be back here right around 11 o'clock. And the next two startups coming up that are first in section 2 will come up here. So Measure One and Pablo. Thanks, everyone.